down, his index finger pointed at the Florida lawmaker's face. Sensing a fight, another Republican congressman, Richard Hudson, came up behind Rogers, grabbing both his shoulders and ultimately palming the irate lawmaker's face in an attempt to hold him back. The sight of U.S. congressmen, from the same political party no less, preventing each other from engaging in a physical altercation drew gasps. Quite the feat in a chamber that has become all too accustomed to disorder. Kevin McCarthy had been walking away from Gates, but spun around amid the commotion. He had just lost the 14th consecutive vote in his bid for Speaker, a historic humiliation. Watching the scene play out and presumably calculating that the prospect of a physical brawl on the House floor wouldn't inspire much confidence in his ongoing bid to grasp the gavel, McCarthy took a few steps toward the turmoil before stopping, shoulders slumped, to merely absorb what was unfolding before him as Rogers was shuttled away from the scene. In an environment where optics are paramount, the implications of a fistfight on the floor of the House of Representatives were not ideal. Even without the scuffle, evocative of overserved chads in a dive bar, the process had already proven disastrous for the Republicans. They would endure one final round of voting, 15 in total, before McCarthy finally limped his way onto the dais. It was a Pyrrhic victory for the California lawmaker, the longest Speaker vote since the pre-Civil War era, and a mark of shame that foreshadowed an embarrassingly short stint with the gavel. As the scene unfolded, Matt Gaetz, the target of the fury, remained seated defiantly, the vision of deluded, self-satisfied machismo. Far from appearing disconcerted at the indignity on display, he seemed to revel in the chaos, as if fueled by the hostility and the mayhem. Shortly after the altercation, Gaetz was photographed smiling and pointing to his flexed biceps, which, incidentally, had played no role in the cringeworthy fracas. This moment in the early days of 2023, however fleeting and forgotten, reflects the state of the modern Republican Party. The dysfunction, the incompetence, the obstinance, the rage, the showmanship, but above all, the utter lack of shame. This is the abject state of a political party that has strayed light years from its original mission, the professed party of Lincoln, of personal responsibility, of family values, of the Constitution itself, was literally at each other's throats as it failed to accomplish the most basic task expected of a governing majority. Today, it is controlled by a burgeoning extremist faction for whom compromise is unacceptable and chaos is the goal. The responsibility to govern has been replaced by the need to attack, to perform, to obstruct, to provoke. This reality is getting exponentially worse year after year, and as citizens, we are becoming dangerously numb to it. For those who argue that such dramatics and dysfunction are inevitable in American politics in the wake of the catastrophic presidency of Donald Trump, look back 2 years. With virtually the same margin of House seats that Republicans had in 2023, Nancy Pelosi managed the apparently Herculean feat of winning on the first ballot on January 3, 2021, earning the support of 216 Democrats and surpassing the threshold of 214 needed to become Speaker. The vote was a straightforward task, one that the Democratic majority accomplished handily. Pelosi took her place on the dais, offering notes of gratitude, hope, and a promise to meet the needs of a country that had been brought to its knees by a pandemic, an economic recession, and an election subversion campaign so aggressive that it would lead to a failed coup attempt by the outgoing Republican president only 3 days later. It is my great honor to preside over this sacred ritual of renewal as we gather under the dome of this temple of democracy to begin the 117th Congress, she said, before graciously congratulating Kevin McCarthy. I look forward to working with you to meet the needs of the American people during this great moment of challenge. Through her enthusiasm, gratitude, and grace, while speaking from behind a mask, she also acknowledged to the new members that, as we are sworn in today, we accept a responsibility as daunting and demanding as any previous generation of leadership has ever faced. Her speech would portend a historically productive Congress and serve as a foil to the mayhem that would consume the same chamber a mere 2 years later. More significantly, it would serve as proof that government works when run by competent people who want it to work. It also reminds us that, as inescapable as our present death spiral back to Trump appears to be, it's not. We do have an alternative, and a functioning one at that. But there is no denying that our democracy is once again teetering on a razor's edge. In such moments, 2 vital questions present themselves. How did we get here? And more urgently, how do we get out? Chapter 1. The Road to Shamelessness. In July 2023, the Biden administration debuted a 35-second ad featuring a surprisingly effective